Hey, what's up? Suda here and welcome to the Cerulean tutorial video. Cerulean is a rise that I've been working on, featuring a blue themed desktop and a material look and feel. As always, all the commands used in the video will be in the GitHub page linked in the description below. To get started, let's open up a terminal by clicking on Activities and typing up terminal here. And the first thing we need to do is to update our repositories and upgrade our system. And we can do that with sudo apt update & sudo apt upgrade. Now, once that's done, the next thing we need to do is to install BSPWM as our tiling window manager and the simple X hotkey daemon for our key bindings. So first we need to install some dependencies. So you can use this command, hit enter, enter your password, and enter Y. And once the dependencies are installed, next we need to clone the repositories from the BSPWM GitHub page and the sxhd GitHub page. So I'll be using the downloads folder for this. So go ahead and cd to the downloads directory and git clone https github.com/baskerville/bspwm.git. This will clone the BSPWM repository. Go ahead and do the same, but for sxhd. Now, once it's done, when you hit ls, you can see two directories. We have BSPWM and sxhd. Next, we need to go inside each of these directories and install each of them. So let's go for BSPWM first. cd bspwm make. And once that's done, enter sudo make install. And now we have BSPWM installed. And we're gonna do the same for sxhd. Now we have both BSPWM and sxhd installed in the system. Now we need to create a directory for config files for both the programs. So go ahead and use this. Now we have both config directories in our .config folder. The next thing we need to do is to copy the sample bspwmrc files to the config directory. We need to shift back to the bspwm directory and then copy the bspwmrc file to our configuration directory in the .config folder. Additionally, we need to make that RC file executable, so you can do that with this command. And once that's done, BSPWM should be good to go. Next we need to do is to configure sxhd. The sxhd RC file is also in the BSPWM repository, so we can copy that with this command. And we need to put it into the sxhd configuration directory. For this, we don't need to make it an executable file because it doesn't need to be. And once that's done, I guess we're good to go. So before we boot into BSPWM, we need to configure some things first. So go ahead and go to the configuration directory, and we need to edit BSPWMRC file. I mean, you can change some things here if you know what you're doing. For this tutorial, I think this file is good to go. Gonna exit. I think we need to do some things with the sxhd RC file. So let's go ahead and enter that. This RC file is responsible for the key bindings. Just make sure that the terminal here is a terminal that is installed in your system. because when we boot into BSPWM later on, the terminal will be the only way we can interact with the operating system, since BSPWM is a very minimal window manager. For Pop! OS, I think it's GNOME terminal, because Pop! OS uses GNOME by default. However, feel free to change the terminal emulator to anything you have installed. Also, if you want to change the key bindings, you can also do that now, but you can also do that later if you want. Go ahead and exit the file, WQ, and we're good to go. I also want to make sure that all the necessary programs are installed before we boot into BSPWM. So the next thing we need to do is to install Polybar. Polybar is a lightweight status bar for minimal window managers, because they usually don't come with status bars. To install, Polybar has an extensive list of dependencies. You can use this command to install the dependencies. Hit enter, enter Y, and it should begin to install. And once the command is done executing, we can then clone the Polybar repository in our downloads folder. So go ahead and change the directory to the downloads folder and clone the repository with this command. And once that's done, go inside the Polybar directory, make a build directory, go inside that build directory, and we're going to build Polybar with cmake. And once that's done, we're going to build it with this command, proc. And once it's done building, we can then install Polybar with this command, sudo make install. And once that's done, Polybar should be installed in our system. Now that we have Polybar installed, the next thing we need to install is our compositor. So the compositor we'll be using is Picom. So install the dependencies we need with this command. And once that's done, we can clone the Picom repository from the GitHub. Let's go back to our downloads folder and clone the Picom repository. So you can do that with this command. Once that's done, let's go inside the Picom directory. Do these commands as instructed in the GitHub page. And Picom uses Ninja and Mason to build. So we're gonna do these commands. Once done building, we can now install it with sudo ninja-c space build space install. And Picom should be installed in our system. We can now go back to our downloads folder and install the next program we need. So the next program we're going to install is Rofi. So we can install Rofi with a simple command. So that's sudo apt install Rofi. Type in your password, and it should begin installing Rofi. And once that's done, Rofi should be installed in our system. Now, part of the Cerulean Rise is theming Spotify, because I use Spotify a lot, and part of this video will be theming Spotify to fit into this blue Cerulean Rise. To install the Spotify client for Linux in Ubuntu-based distros, you can do that with these 3 commands. Once installation completes, you should see the Spotify program in your app menu. go ahead and launch it just to see if it works. And here we go. As you can see, Spotify is working correctly. Just log into your account and you'll be good to go. Next, we'll be installing a program called Spicetify, which enables you to theme your Spotify application. To install, let's open up a terminal here. And you can use this command to install Spicetify on your desktop. And it should say that Spicetify was installed successfully. Now it also says here, we need to add these two lines to our .bash_profile file. So go ahead and copy these lines, Ctrl-Alt-C, open up a new tab, and edit your bspwmrc file, I think. So it would be the same. And then you can add it to the end of the file. Once added, just hit save and exit. And Spicetify should be installed and ready and set up in your system. Now, to apply a custom theme to your Spotify client using Spicetify, we need to gain some read and write permissions to the binaries of the program, of the Spotify program itself. So you can do that with these two commands. And once that's done, we should have read and write permissions granted for Spicetify to work properly. Now, to test if our Spicetify installation is working correctly, we can do these set of commands to check. Go ahead and relaunch your terminal if needed. Enter Spicetify for our first command. And this will generate the configuration ini file. And once that's done, use this command to back up the configuration files and to enable the dev tool. Once that's done, it should say that Spotify is spiced up and the dev tool is enabled. If you see a Spotify window pop up, just close that one. Use this command to update the Spicetify CSS file, and we can launch Spotify to see our current theme. And you should see a white/pink color palette in your Spotify program, and this will be the default theme that will be applied to your Spicetify installation. So we can close Spotify now and install our blue custom theme for Spicetify. Next, we'll be installing our custom Spicetify blue theme to fit in with a Cerulean theme. So first, we need to clone the repository. I like to go to the downloads folder just to keep everything clean, and we can clone the repository using this command. Once it's done downloading, go inside the Spicetify-themes directory. The thing we'll be interested here is the Dribblish theme. So we can copy this folder using this command, and we need to put it in the home directory, Spicetify-CLI folder. Once that's done, when we go inside to the directory we just copied into, which is the themes folder, and hit ls, we can see the Dribblish folder, and this will be the theme that we'll be using for our Spicetify Cerulean Rise. To install and use the Dribblish Nord-Dark theme, we need to go inside it, and inside it will be numerous files. First thing we need to do is to copy the dribblish.js file to the extensions folder, and you can do that with this command. And we need to tell Spicetify where that Dribblish extension is. And we can now apply the theme to our Spicetify installation. Now once you hit enter, you should see your Spotify window pop up containing the new bluish Cerulean theme. the next thing we need to do is to install Alacritty. Now, I personally use Alacritty as my daily terminal, along with ST and URXVT. So you can install Alacritty in Pop! OS and Ubuntu-based distros with sudo apt install Alacritty. Now on another tab, I figure this would be a great time to clone my repository containing the config files for the RISE itself. So let's go back to the downloads folder and git clone the repository. To apply the Alacritty theme, we need to make first a config folder for the Alacritty configuration file. So you can do that with mkdir in the home.config directory, and let's make a folder called Alacritty. Once that's done, you can go ahead and copy the Alacritty .yml file, which Alacritty uses for its configuration file. If you want to change the borders, you can go ahead and do that by editing the YML file. Okay, here, the padding. So if you want to adjust the space between the text around the window, let's say we can make this smaller, like 30. Save, and it should make the border or the padding in this window smaller. So now we change it to 30 by 30 units. At this point, I think it would be a great time to switch to BSPWM so we can see the changes. So go ahead and close this terminal. We can switch our desktop environment or window manager by logging out. Once you've logged out, click on your username, and on the bottom right of your screen, you should see a gear icon. Click on it, and you should see the option for BSPWM. Go ahead and select BSPWM. Enter your password, and we should boot into BSPWM. And if you're wondering why it's just a black screen, don't worry. BSPWM is really light, and so it comes with nothing. So we have to do some things first. Now to open up a terminal, as I said earlier, the terminal will be the only way we can interact with the OS. So to open up a terminal, I use super key or Windows key and enter. And this will pop up the terminal. Let me just change default terminal to Alacritty. Gonna restart, and I guess it was super escape to reload the key bindings, and when we press super enter, you can see that when we open up a terminal, it uses the Alacritty and the Alacritty theme we set up earlier. We can now close this ugly GNOME terminal and use the Alacritty terminal from now on. Now I think BSPWM doesn't have a GUI interface to set up the resolution, and I think mine is not set to 1080p. So let me just quickly see here. And here we go. I guess that looks so much better. By the way, I think the fonts are kind of weird. So yeah, I guess the font looks weird right now because we forgot to install the source code Pro font, which is what I used for this RISE. But that's in the directory on the repository that we cloned. So go ahead and go to the downloads folder. Don't mind the weird font, we'll fix that in a moment. Go inside the blue sky directory, and we can see a source code Pro folder. We can copy this to the user share fonts and regenerate the font cache with verbose output. And that should be good to go. We can try opening up a new terminal. And yeah, I think that uses the source code Pro font. Yeah. So yeah, from this, once we install the fonts, I think source code Pro looks really good as a terminal font. We can close this with Windows W. Super key W. And now the font should be looking good in our terminal. The next thing we need to do is to apply our wallpaper. So first we need to install a program called fe, and you can install that with sudo apt install feh, enter your password, once that's done, you can use this command to echo this command to apply the wallpaper every time we start BSPWM. To apply the changes, you can use Windows Alt R, I think. As you can see, when I close this window, the wallpaper is now applied to BSPWM. Let's open up a terminal again, because we still have some things needed to install. I'm gonna zoom it here. And yeah, so that's it for applying the wallpaper. Now, just a quick tip. If you notice, when you hover the cursor to the wallpaper, you can see it turns into an X icon. Now, if you don't want that, simply edit your bspwmrc file. And at the end of the file, add this line, x at root dash cursor underscore name space left underscore ptr space ampersand. Save and exit, and reload BSPWM with Super Alt R. And when you hover the cursor to the wallpaper, it now turns into a normal arrow shaped cursor. So just a quick tip for anyone that's wondering. And yeah. Next we'll be setting up Polybar. Now first we need to create again a configuration folder to store the Polybar config files. So let's do that with mkdir.config, and we'll name the folder to Polybar. Next, to copy the config files from our Rise repository to the config directory, Polybar config directory, you can do that with these set of commands. So when we restart BSPWM, so everything's looking good. Excuse the black borders for now, because we haven't set up our compositor yet. But yeah, everything's looking good. Also, don't mind if the audio icon is the only icon in this bar. It's because I'm in a virtual machine. However, if you're using a laptop, the battery icon and the Wi-Fi icon will be in this bar right here. So to get rid of these black borders, we need to set up our compositor. Now to set up Picom, which we'll be using for our compositor, we need to create the configuration directory first. So we can do that with mkdir, and this will create a Picom directory inside the .config directory. Now let's go inside that directory we just created, and now it's still empty, but inside the repository of this Cerulean Rise is a picom.configuration.conf file. So we need to copy that, and we can see the picom.conf file is here, which we'll be using for Picom. So if we run Picom, As you can see, this configuration file that I made rounds off the the borders of your windows. So if I create another window here, so it rounds off the borders to give this rounded corner look. If you don't want that, then feel free to edit the picom.conf file. Also, if you want the active window to be wherever the cursor is hovering, then go ahead and edit your bspwmrc file and add this line. And when we save this file and reload bspwm, so as you can see, if you take a look at the gray border here, you can see as wherever the cursor is hovered, it will focus that window. So if I focus my cursor here, I can now begin to type instead of manually clicking it. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's about it for Picom and the compositor. Before I forget, echo these lines to your bspwmrc file. So next we'll be installing the ZSH shell and omyzsh. So to install ZSH, you can install it with simply using apt. So that will be sudo apt install ZSH. Enter your password and enter Y. And it should begin to install ZSH shell on your system. Now the next thing we need to do is to install omyzsh. So to install omyzsh, you can use this command. Now the next thing we need to install is power level 10k for your terminal and for your shell, I mean. It has these directory arrows that can look pretty good in your ZSH shell. You can install it with this command. Now when you open your terminal, you should see this power level 10k configuration wizard. If it doesn't open automatically, just type in p10k space configure and the wizard should open in your terminal. Now for the options to select, just follow the instructions in the screen, and the theme that you can see from the showcase video is the rainbow theme with a 24-hour format and a single line theme. Now that we have power level 10k installed, the next thing we need to do is to install vim-airline and begin to theme Vim. So do the following commands as shown in the screen. The next thing we need to do is to install vim-airline, and you can do that by using these commands shown on the screen. Next, we're going to install the themes available for vim-airline, and you can do that by using these commands as shown on the screen. Next, we need to create a configuration directory and a themes directory for Rofi. And we can do that by using these commands as shown in the screen. Once that's done, use Rofi's built-in theme selector using this command. Navigate to the bottom until you find the theme Nord. Press enter to preview the theme, and press Alt-A to apply the theme. Next, edit your sxhd file and change to whatever command is bound to super space to Rofi space -show space drun. On to the final step, we will be installing Slim for our login manager and Slimlock for our lock screen. So you can install Slim using these commands as shown in the screen. And when you encounter this screen, select Slim. Once that's done, Slim should be installed in our system. The next thing we need to install is Slimlock. And you can do that with these commands. Finally, apply our custom theme to Slim and Slimlock by following these commands shown in the screen. So that's it for the Cerulean rice. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you liked it. I really apologize for the lack of uploads recently. I've been very busy with schoolwork, but I'm back with regular uploads, and stay tuned for the Kofuku tutorial rice, which I'll be doing in the next video. Also, you can help support the channel and the content I produce by heading over to patreon.com/sudo_rice. Your donations and your contributions would really help my family out. Thank you so much for the support you've given to the channel in the past 3 months since I got started. We're now close to 1,000 subs, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And yeah, see you in the next video.